Welcome, everybody, to Advanced Selling Podcast, the longest running sales training podcast in the history of podcasts. My name is Bryan Neale.
I'm Bill Caskey.
Here every week for your listening enjoyment. Bill's laughing, maybe because I'm adjusting my hat.
Yeah, because we're always looking for things to talk about. And then at the very last second, you go, oh, my hat's crooked. Oh, we can talk about that. It's like, oh, well, that's going to be our focus of our.
No, when hats feel correct on my head, they look crooked.
They're not.
When they look correct, they feel crooked. And now I'm looking at a camera. I'm trying to fix it. And am I turning my head wrong or whatever?
Yeah, all the signs of a crooked head. That's what that is.
I had them backwards earlier for the last one down in the home basement episode. Hey, if you haven't joined the Insider, we've talked about it. I said, stop not joining the Insider. Go to advancedsellingpodcast.com. Look up the Insider program. It's live coaching. Bill runs it live. It's live. There are listeners in there with you from all over the world. Yep. Really cool. They even have little subgroups. They meet in between meetings. It's a really awesome group. We talked a little bit last time about things that have stood the test of time. Being part of a group has stood the test of time, and being around other humans. And it's going to keep standing the test of time. So just go join the program, for goodness sake. You'll be glad you did.
You know, that's one thing that we talked about last episode. What are the elements that are kind of core principles of achievement and success in sales? And we didn't really talk about that so much. The idea of having a group around you that you can go to on a frequent basis and get energy, get inspiration, get ideas, and contribute ideas. Yes. We didn't talk about that. I think think about that's as old as time, people coming together, the disciples and the, since we just celebrated Easter, there's always been this group of people. Napoleon Hill talks about a mastermind group, and Dave Ramsey had his Eagles group that he met with every week at breakfast once a week for 12 years. And so I think that's probably an episode worth having on its own. I'm going to, you're a music guy.
Pretty much.
You ever heard of a guy named Mickey Dolenz?
Oh, of course. The Monkees.
Mickey Dolenz was one of the original members of the Monkees. The other three, now for those of you who are less than 80,
we just lost.
Probably lost you.
Yeah, we may have already lost that group. Like
the 80s.
Yeah. These guys are pretty good, but they're kind of like boomers. So yeah.
Well, like you said, though, on one of our pre-show meetings, that there are songs from the past that still live on.
Yes.
The Monkees had a song called I'm a Believer, been in tons of movies. My daughter, who's, 50, 40 years younger than me, all her friends know that song by heart. So the Monkees are probably one of those classic bands that a couple of their songs. And anyway, he's the only surviving member, so we're going to see him.
That's great.
Before he passes, and then I don't know who will go see it.
The Monkees are done. Yeah. The Monkees are all gone. I think that song is from Shrek. Is that right?
I'm a Believer.
I think I'm a Believer was remade by oh my God, the guy died. Oh my God. People listening, like they're yelling at the people listening. I'll get it here in a second. Was remade and then was in the movie Shrek, I think. I'm a Believer. Smash Mouth.
No.
Smash Mouth is the name of the band.
Do you know who I'm a Believer was written by?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, this is good. I know this one. One of my all-time favorite singer-songwriters. Seen him 3 times. Not on tour anymore. He has Parkinson's disease.
Yeah, he's
great. Neil Diamond.
Neil Diamond
wrote I'm a Believer. Yes. Yeah. Huge Neil Diamond fan.
And then I heard him sing it once. I'm like, oh no.
It's great. That's, you sell your good songs to other people.
Yeah.
God, I love Neil Diamond. He was
so anyway,
it's great.
Whenever, I think I talked last time about going to a concert where Pure Prairie League, they had one song I knew called Amy. And so I had to memorize the words to that. But the Monkees, all those words come back to you because I was 12 years old when they were popular. So I remember all.
Where I learned about now I knew them from just their songs, but where I really learned about Davy Jones was when he guest starred in a series show, an episode of the Brady Bunch.
Jones, did he really?
Had a crush on him, and they were trying to sneak in to see him sing. And Marsha and Greg dressed as waiters at a fancy hotel to try to get to see Davy Jones. And
you remember weird things.
Oh, I do. I really do. My wife tells me this. Okay.
How do you remember that? Okay. So here's a topic today, and we're not going to be able to go through the whole thing, but I've been playing around a little bit with this concept that I've been promoting to my clients called everyday leads. And everyday leads is mechanism to generate interest, opportunities, business to business leads on a continual basis.
Mm-hmm.
So not just when you need new business, but all the time, 24/7, every day, this mechanism is out there working for you to generate interest, email addresses, and there's lots of different ways to do it.
Yep.
So I've gotten a lot of people in my client list who love the idea. And so I'm in the process right now of building a kind of a program around it. And so I thought I would bring it up to you and see if you had any thoughts on what it was, the value of it, and then what are some important components to that as we talk through it?
The first bit of validation I'll say is that I agree. You mentioned in the pre-show that you observe, and I also observe, and you listeners do this, you do. We prospect when we need to. And we need to when the funnel's empty or we just got done closing a bunch of business. We run 3 VPs of sales peer groups. There's about 50, 55, give or take, people in those between those 3. And in this last month's check-in, I can tell you that those people who finished really strong in the first quarter have no funnel left for Q2. And it was a reminder to me that this still goes on. We work so hard to close what's in the funnel, we don't prospect and fill the funnel up. So what a great idea to have a system or a mechanism or a process that's doing that for me on my behalf while I'm focused on closing what I need to close for the end of the month of the quarter. So
yeah, I think that comes, and what you're describing is exactly it. It comes from our emphasis on labor, on sales labor as the remedy for empty funnels.
Yep.
Or a remedy to build a funnel is labor. We always throw labor at things. Labor. More of this. SDRs, BDRs, FDRs, FDR. President. But we've talked about this before, but this mechanism sits in between sales and marketing. So you've got sales up here and marketing down here, wherever you have them, right in between there. And we've affectionately called it smarketing or sales and marketing. Is that gray area where this mechanism sits.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not only marketing and it's not only sales, but it's both. And if we can get this right, I think then we sleep at peace at night, especially at the end of the quarter when we're done and we have to wake up to start the year, start the quarter empty.
Yes, you should never have to do that, ever. And part of it, I'm going to go a slightly different direction tactically on this too. Is so the plan. I mean, we talk about things like start a podcast or do things or get a publishing or get posting going or whatever. That's all great. The other little core discipline bit is held time on the calendar with others in a small group to do prospecting on a weekly basis. And so where salespeople fail at this is at best they block their own prospecting time. And this is labor. This is part of labor, but you could fill in this time with other non-laborious things. But part of the problem is we don't block the time. Because I could even say here, hey, you should do a podcast. I'm like, oh, I don't have time to do a podcast. I'm too busy closing all these deals. Like you don't not have time to do a podcast. And so part of it is just having the discipline because I feel like here's the thing with labor, Bill. This is like, I think we're sort of hardwired in America. That doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like I'm doing my job.
What doesn't?
If I do a podcast, if I'm a salesperson and I do a podcast, that doesn't feel like I'm doing my job.
No question about it.
I should be calling someone to get a deal. See that?
That's exactly right.
And that's a big disconnect.
Our identity is so wrapped up in our ability to throw labor at a problem that we feel less than. If all of a sudden we throw something out and we double our income, I think that F's us up. Because now it's like, well, shit, all this time I've been throwing labor. I've been throwing hours.
Yeah.
And I work 20, 50 hours a day or 70 hours a week. I didn't need to do that.
Yes.
No, you don't. But it requires some thought up front. So I thought what we could do here is talk about what might be a couple of elements here. I'm going to start because I think what you just mentioned is really vital. And that is I've got my
look at that
project plan here for everyday leads. And step number 1 at the very bottom is we have to have the mentality right. And the mentality must change from if it is to be, it is up to me, which meaning labor.
Yep.
To if it is to be, there needs we need a system. If there's to be an automated way to generate everyday leads, a system is at the heart of that, not labor.
Yes.
Now it requires labor to build the system, but once the system's built, then I'm not throwing labor at it anymore. You might even say that there's you can either throw labor at something or you can throw leverage. The podcast is throwing leverage at something.
Yes.
Labor is throwing hours in the day or feet on the street at something. So mentality could be something like, you have to feel like you have an obligation to your customer base to do this. If you don't have any obligation, that you think you've got something really special that you solve for people and that you bring to the world, you've got something really incredibly unique. Yeah. Why wouldn't you want to expose this to as many people as you can? Why would you limit to the number of people that you can literally call every month?
Yeah.
So there's an obligation and maybe a noble purpose part of that too.
You act out of duty.
Yeah.
Duty to share.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to 1A that because I'm trying to also think about it because I used to have this issue. When I put it into health things, you've got like cardio, running and treadmill and Stairmaster. And that was always the path to weight loss in the 80s. Like you just got to, go farther, go faster. And then comes along weight training. People are like, no, you need to build lean muscle mass. But when you lift weights, a lot of people sweat when they lift weights, but you can lift a lot of weights and not really sweat. And you feel like you're not doing anything. But then a good trainer will say, look at the people lifting and look at the people on the treadmills. Who's leaner? Who has more muscle? Who looks better physically? Yeah. And it's because lean muscle mass will build over time, but it's not as instant and you don't feel the sweat or that kind of exhaustion you feel after you run or work on a Stairmaster but then that's fleeting. It goes away and it stops working. The muscle works for you over time. This is like building sales muscle.
Exactly. So this is exactly the same thing.
Yes. Yeah. That requires a shift in mentality. Because early on, when I ran a whole bunch long ago, running was my thing, but my trainer was like, you need to lift. I'm like, no, I don't get a good sweat lifting. He's like, you're going to stay like scrawny or, weak, or you're going to be a fat, skinny person, Yeah. And it just didn't feel right. I got to switch the mentality. It's really good.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I want to tactically, so I'll have the mental shift first, and then I'm going to go to something I talk about with my clients all the time. I do it when I keynote speak too, called the first domino. And that is you need to take a first step. Now, Tony Robbins talks about massive action. You got to take massive action, Bill. I don't think that Tony's great. I'm not dissing that, but I think that makes some people uncomfortable. So I say, take a little action, just anything that moves towards this thing. So I've changed my mentality. Now what? So in the health situation we just said, I'm going to start to build muscle mass. Okay, first step, I'm going to go to Amazon. I'm going to buy some weights. Mm-hmm. That's the first step, is just buying the weights, and they'll show up on my doorstep and they'll sit out there as long as I want them to sit out there. Eventually I'll bring them downstairs and put them back here in the basement. And then I'll stare at them like, well, they're sitting there. I might as well pick one of them up. I think that happens. So if you're going to start a podcast, I always tell people the first step in the and I do this, Bill, asking your clients, what's the first step in getting a podcast? People are like, well, plan the show, figure out what to talk about, blah, blah. I'm like, nope. You go to Amazon and you type in the search engine, podcast starter bundle. It's $80. Yeah. I've seen 1,000 of them. Yeah. And you hit buy now on Prime. It'll be there this afternoon. First domino, you got to take your first step. If you're going to host an event, pick the date. You can always change it. Record a podcast, with your new equipment. You don't have to release it. Just start. Anyway, that's my first thing.
No, it's good. That's good. So the first domino of this would just be sketch it out. Sketch it out on a piece of paper. What is the thing? Yes. What is the thing that you're going to do?
Yes.
Yeah. I had another one here, and that is what's the platform that you're going to use to create these leads? So one example, I've got a client who runs an automated webinar where a prospect can go to this page. They can put in their email address and name, and this webinar, or we'll call it a presentation, is titled something very compelling. And it's a very useful, full of value presentation. So the customer puts in their name and they get access immediately to this 30-minute presentation on how to fix a problem. And what they have found is that people usually watch those things 15 to 20 minutes. So now they're going back in and they're reducing the length by that because they feel like that's kind of our sweet spot, 15 to 20 minutes. But of 100 people that watch it, 3 or 4 people book a call with their salesperson who is where it shows up underneath the video.
Yep.
And so you say, well, that's only 3%. Well, but the sales team didn't have to do anything to get that. So get out of this mode of, well, that's 3%. That's a 3%. No, it's 3% of people who watch this that you didn't even know were interested in this thing. And now you know they're interested in this thing that you sell.
Yes.
So whether it's a webinar or a presentation, you don't have to do. What I would recommend people do is do some kind of a video that talks about the trends in the industry, the problems that people have that maybe your cohort has, your ideal avatar has, and then book a call. Just say, look, if you'd like to hear more about this, I've got one client who takes them from that to a actual live webinar that they run every month. So the possibilities are endless, but you have to start thinking from a whole process standpoint, not just how do I make a cold call? No, it's how do I get people to see this thing? Once they see it, what are the options? What do they need to do? And that's why I say sketch it out is one of the first steps.
I love it. It's a great first domino. Just sketch it out.
Yeah.
The next one I'm going to say has to do with leverage. You mentioned last episode. Was that last episode when you said labor or leverage?
I think so.
That was the last episode, I think. It was a really great quote that Bill said. We throw labor at it. We need to throw leverage at it. This is throwing leverage at it. Is leveraging people that already have relationships with your ideal clients, whether it's digitally or otherwise. And that is creating a list of connectors. So the tactical side here is we require or encourage, as close as we can, require our clients to have a list by name of 20 connectors that they're actively engaged with. And by actively engaged with, that means they see them 3 times a year, once a trimester. And in those meetings, they are not only they're constantly looking to connect other people, but they're also asking for connections and that sort of thing. If you get on that path where you're meeting with 20 connectors each 3 times a year, you're going to have regular connector meetings, 2 to 3 a month, give or take. And if in those meetings you're asking for introductions, you will never have to worry about the top of the funnel ever. You won't have to worry about it. And you're getting good, warm lead and connections. The problem is people get their funnel full and they don't do any connector work. Yeah. And then they go, then they outreach to their connectors like, hey man, it's been a while. Let's get together, and everybody knows what's going on.
Everybody knows what's coming.
Exactly. So if you do it regularly, it's not weird like that anymore. And if you balance it out, Bill talked about going to a group last episode, and you're going to a group to give, to contribute, like the Insider Group. And so my gut tells me that if you're listening to this podcast, you understand what I just said, but you don't have a list of the 20 people written down by name. And if I audited your calendar, you don't have regular meetings booked with those people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's certainly not a once a trimester goal. So just get specific with that.
It's a great goal. Yeah. And I would say you could also stack. So what I'm talking about with this presentation and what Bryan's talking about with networking is you could stack those together.
Amen.
And so before you go out to meet this person, you could say, hey, by the way, this is something that we share with all of our potential customers. Thought you'd like to see it. And then they watch this thing. And then they say, oh, well, now that you say it that way, I've got 3 people I want to introduce you to. Because that you're not left trying to describe what you do in a coffee meeting. It can become kind of awkward, and it can take you 20 minutes. And then I'd rather put that on video, put that somewhere digitally so that this networking, this person that you're networking with can consume it in some way. You might even have another version for that. If you get super serious about networking, have a version just for your network.
So good. That's a great one right there. Stacking. Love stacking.
Yeah. So think about that as you go through your week here about, could you create a situation where you had something out there working for you on a daily basis all the time while you're doing, because if you're in professional selling, that it's the face-to-face time with prospects, it's the highest value time. It's your high paid $1,000 an hour time. You're not spending all that much time, but I don't want you to spend $1,000 an hour time doing $10 an hour cold calls. And if you can create this mechanism that works in the background, I think you'll find that within a quarter, you don't need to cold call anymore. Things become on autopilot. And then we might even talk next time about, okay, how do you promote this thing? Because at some point you got to get people into this thing, but we'll save that for another episode.
That's really, really good. Stacking. Love stacking. It's from the movie Meatballs. Remember the movie Meatballs? Bill? Really old movie.
No, I don't.
The spaz. I don't know. Google it. That's it. See you next.
I will.
Bye.
All right, man. See you next time. Good job today.